Hi guys, this is Jill, and I'm with the SSW rules team and Adam. We're going to talk about the sprint review and retro 96 and 97. So let's jump on our sprint review email. So as you can see, we had 3 goals for the sprint, and 2 of them has been achieved. One is about having the POC demo live on the website. And the other one is about listing all the pain points we can raise to the TINA team. But we didn't manage to document what we made about the TINA deployment on Azure. This week was about 9 man days. And I also added on that table the POC test environment, if you want to check it out, but we're going to talk about it later on. So let's move to the backlog. At the first glance, we can see that the main task was about the deployment, but we also made some other tasks like creating some components, documentation, and listing the pain points. That was one of our goals. Let's talk about that documentation PBI that you made. Chloe, up here, sorry.
Yes. So we have many GitHub actions in both rules and the rules content repositories. And for example, those used to check front matter or validate the Markdown files. And previously, we didn't have any detailed documentation for this part. So now we edit it. And the documentation mainly covers each GitHub actions. For example, when it is triggered and what's the purpose and what it is actually doing. And there are also some GitHub actions that need to be updated or removed after TINA migration. So we also took the opportunity to list them out this time. And that's pretty it.
All right. Any question, guys?
Oh, good.
Oh, good. So let's move on to the other one, another PBI, which is important. That was one of our goals. It's about listing all the pain points to TINA team. Hugo, maybe you can talk about that one.
Yeah, made some findings that we want to share with the TINA team. The first one is that in the production website currently, we have the images for each rule in the same folder as the rule, and with TINA, it's not achievable at the moment. So I think it would be nice to create an issue to let them know if maybe they can do something about it. I've also restated that we have an issue with the separate content repo not hosting the images at the moment when we save them. They are going in the website repo instead. So we created an issue last sprint. I just linked it here. Also in the media manager, if we end up putting all the images in the media manager, the same folder, it would be nice to have a search bar in there, which doesn't exist at the moment. And if we end up with thousands of images and rules in the same folder, it'd be better to have a search bar to find what we are looking for when we are updating rules. And lastly, we do have a search bar when we are in admin edit mode. You know, Adam, when we are in the collection page, we can search for specific elements. We have a search bar there. It uses a search token that we have on the TINA Cloud project. And I just think that this search bar could be nice to have in the website itself to search for rules instead of us creating the search bar from scratch. Yeah. So that's the findings we have at the moment. We'll create issues. I sent it to myself to do it after the sprint review.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to another important task. Yeah, it's also you that you made. Yeah.
I think that's something you wanted, Adam. The possibility to add an image next to the rule title in the rule page. There was a thread with Thiago, and we just added this feature. Did you notice that we worked on this? I think I mentioned you in the PBI.
On the right. Yes, I did. Yes.
Right. So yeah, we've added a thumbnail next to the title, and you can update the image in the Tina admin panel. Thiago made some feedback, yeah, thanks. And I implemented it yesterday, so now it should be awesome.
What happens if there's no image?
It happens this, no image.
Oh, it's just like normal. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Awesome.
If you have one, then it shows, and if you have,
Yeah, cool. That's very cool.
that's basically it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Do we really want to show the downvotes? What happens if a rule gets downvoted more than upvoted? Yeah.
I guess we can do like YouTube does and only show upvotes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Adam? Adam, we
Say
lost you.
again.
Yeah, do we really want the downvotes? YouTube hide the downvotes on purpose. What happens if a rule gets downvoted more than upvoted?
To update the rule.
So, what do you think?
Sorry, can you ask me again?
Do we really want to show the downvotes on the rules? YouTube hides the downvotes on purpose.
Yeah, but that's really because of cyberbullying, and that's the mother of bad ideas, because you don't know when people disagree with what someone says on YouTube. So the rules are there so that you know what people agree with and you know what people disagree with. So, you know, I don't agree that YouTube should have done that, and I don't think we should do it.
Okay. So let's leave it like that. All right. Let's wait for the SharePoint rules get downvoted. The SharePoint haters. Okay, great. Gonna have a great time. All right. Any other feedback about? No. Okay. Right. Let's move on. And the last PBI I want to talk about, I think the most important one for that sprint, it's about putting the POC live on Azure. So we managed to do it. You will find the link on the PBI here, but also you will find it, I put it, as I said before, up here on the sprint review email. And it looks like that. So you will find categories. You can open the categories and have the rules, and open the rules. And here it is. And the admin panel is working as well. The only thing that doesn't work is the search bar right now. We had to comment some code to make it live, but it's for a PBI for the next sprint. Any question, Adam, about that? Oh, okay, so let's go back to our sprint review email. So as I said, a lot of dons. That's great. If you have any question, Adam, about that backlog, I think we can move on to the next of the rest of the email. Adam, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Do you have any question about the backlog?
No, it looks good to me.
Okay, cool. About the timesheet data, we still have only Christian in Power BI. No release yet because we are still working on the POC. And about AI usage, kind of the same of last sprint, except that Hugo and I tried Claude, and I think it's better than ChatGPT, more efficient and more efficient, and I prefer the response. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for dev, it's better.
Yeah, it's just a feeling. And now let's move on to the sprint retro.
Oh, before we do the retro,
Yes?
would we be able to add Matt Wicks in?
Matt?
Yeah, Christian, could you add Matt Wicks? The reason I just want to know whether plonking all the images into one folder is It sounds like a massive step back. So, has anyone discussed this with him?
I discussed this with Jack P last sprint. He told me
Right.
that at the moment we can't do anything else, but yeah, that's
Right.
I believe on their roadmap to fix that because other CMSs lets you put the
Okay.
images where you want, right?
Christian, have you added him yet?
Yeah, I've added him to the meeting, just trying to dial him in.
Okay. I can dial him in if you prefer.
Sorry, I must missed the
yeah.
start of the conversation, but it's always been like that, right? So it's not really a step back.
No,
It's a step back from the current SSW website.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Can I add him in then?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. I'll add him. All right,
It's not a TINA step back, but it's a step back for rules. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Wixie.
Hey.
All right, great. Thank you for answering. I'm in the middle of a sprint review for the rules team with the Frenchies, and I understand that the SSW website has all the images in one folder. Is that correct?
The website.
Yes, the current website.
Yes.
Right. So the current SSW rules has every image, or the images related to one rule, all bunched together in one folder for that specific rule. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So if we migrate it to TINA, are we going to be throwing all the images into one big folder?
If you want to go next, then yes.
Right. Okay.
So,
So
we knew that from the last time, because that's kind of a thing about Next, where you can source static content out of /public. So it's similar to when you use .NET Core. ASP.NET Core, your static content sits in www root.
okay, is this a Next issue, or is this something that can be fixed in TINA?
It's not an issue. That's by design. That's Next by design.
Right, but you can understand throwing, 3,000 rules that have an image each, and sometimes more than one image, would be a folder with 3,000 images plus. That would be pretty hard to work with.
Well, no, you can always, well, okay. So we knew this from day one, that this was going to be a thing. You can set up the TINA config so that for a particular rule, it specifies the subdirectory straight away. And everything doesn't have to sit in one directory. You can have, /public /images / and then the rule name. And then the images for that rule sit in that directory. So yeah, there's a file move, but that's scriptable. Does that make sense?
Can I, Hugo and the team, can I ask, is that something you already plan to do?
Yeah, if we were going to do this, I plan to have subfolders for each rules in the media folder. So I think that's what Matt said.
Right. Okay.
But it's still 3,000 subfolders.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yes, which is what we have today. But
in a different place, yes.
Now, is this the same as what we have, or is this a slight step backwards, Matt?
It's just moving the directory structure is there at the moment. It's just being moved.
Right.
So instead of having a directory for a rule and then a file in there called rule.md and a bunch of images, the rule.md moves to a different collection for content, and instead of being called rule.md, it's got a different name. That's pretty much all that'll change.
Yeah.
Right.
It's basically rule content and assets don't sit together.
Yeah.
They sit in two same structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can I just double check my understanding? I believe at the moment we have the markdown file with the images all in one folder, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And now we're going to have the markdown file somewhere and the images somewhere else in another folder.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. To me, this seems like a step backwards. Does anybody agree?
Yes. Agree. Yes, but there's nothing we can do about it because the static content has to sit in that media folder. But by the way, I just discovered that. I didn't know that, but now I do.
Right.
And we
Now-
can't really store the markdown there because it's a collection, as far as I understand.
Right. So when we did the retro on the last one before we started this, remember we did a retro to check what triggered us to store on the migration before we did this. Did this come up as one of the issues?
I think so. I think
This is
so.
for you, Hugo.
Yeah, I think so.
So you knew this because I didn't know this until just now.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I think we already talked about this in
Not
previous
with me.
meeting, but can't be sure.
Yeah, because I'm not really. I'm uncomfortable with this move because it seems to be going backwards. So I think we shouldn't. I don't think we should move forward with this.
Well, I understand how that's considered a step backwards, and I do agree. However, that link will or should be quite tight because the link between the rule and the folder will be by name and therefore kind of unbreakable. From a UI perspective, you need to work out which images are in the rule. It's quite straightforward because you got a link from the rule itself to the content folder. So it's not that bad, I think. Like, what's your actual concern? I understand architecturally it makes less sense, but from a user experience, what's the problem? What's the use case?
When you think about a doc, a docx file, that is a file, and inside that it has the images and the text.
It's self-contained.
All together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, self-contained. Yes.
And that's how we have it at the moment, all self-contained, a folder per rule. We're about to break that, and it feels something I wouldn't want to do. Like the structure matters. I would prefer to experiment with a different front end if that's possible.
What's plan B if we don't want to use Next then? Because that's the next problem. What's one that would work?
Astro. I don't know. I don't know, but I guess I regard the storage of it as important. And the tool matters. The tool is nice. But to break, like, let's just say you switch databases from one to another, and instead of a relational thing, you throw everything in one table. I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. I know it's not the exact same thing, but I don't want to choose a platform where the data structure is worse than what we have now.
Do you know why Next takes this approach, Matt? You said it's by design.
All the modern frameworks. All the modern frameworks take this approach where you've got essentially a static folder, and then there's a well-known location where static content sits. Everything else is pretty much because you've got file-based routing conventions and things like that.
You're right. So, Adam, even if we switch to another front end, it seems to be the way things are going, right? So even if we switch framework, we're going to become the oddity. So we probably don't want to do that.
Matt, could we ask the Frenchies to do some proof of concepts of different alternatives so we don't have to separate the markdown away from the images?
Look, if you want to do that, I don't know, you're gonna have some weird. It feels like you're bending over backwards for it. You're going up against the grain essentially. So if like, what are you going to do? You're going to have like a line in the build process that symlinks or copies the images from one directory to another, so it's available at runtime, or you're going to have some middleware running in Next.js for devs to like in dev mode to get an image from somewhere else than where you'd expect it to be.
Well, to go to
It's
a
kind
folder and play and build it.
So the other thing is then in Tina, you're not going to see the images next to the content because they're treated as two different, like media is considered a collection by itself, a dedicated collection. So you're not going to be able to click into the editor and go, oh, I want to look at rules to better blah. Oh, there's the rule in the images. It's not going to work like that.
Right.
So, I mean, the path of least resistance is to pull rules out of the content and store it in its own collection. Alternatively, you're looking at different front-end tech to kind of run some code to make it look like that's happening.
Doesn't sound
Right.
good to me.
Me too.
No.
I can't think
Is
of
there
anything
any-
off the top of my head.
Is there anything that could be done in Tina?
No, Tina is entity framework, the equivalent of entity framework. It's a data persistence layer for your content. So you can query it out and write it back down. It doesn't care about how the files are served. I mean, you can plug in a Cloudinary image provider so that instead of storing things in Tina Cloud, you'll store it in Cloudinary. But that's just, hey, you're saving data and we'll save it you've told me you want to save it somewhere else.
Right.
I'll get a URL back and I'll shove it into the content because it's been saved somewhere else. I'm not in control of it.
So what's like, I understand again the architectural concern of not having the rules self-contained with their static images and content assets in general. Now, from a user perspective, is there any concern? Because that we could address.
So the user perspective, like we've done that for the website where you go into certain places and you go to like the carousel on the homepage. You go to add an image there. It selects a directory by default. Yeah, a specific carousel one. So it's programmed into it to go, no, don't look at public images. Go to public images, homepage, carousel, because that's where we want to keep all this stuff so it doesn't get muddled up.
And would you agree that it's possible in theory to have as the rule template that, that if you're trying to add an image or change an image there, it by default looks at that subfolder based on the name?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what we're doing.
I don't know how it's implemented right now, but yeah. So I think from a UX perspective, Adam, it doesn't change much. It's really the data layer. I do understand it's step backwards, but it seems to be the flow. General flow.
Okay. All right. Let me try again from a different angle. When people don't use Netlify CMS today, they have to use GitHub by itself. So they find the folder, and then from that point forward, they can see the markdown and the images related to that rule. If they choose not to use Tina CMS and go directly to GitHub, they're going to have to find one thing and then go and find the other thing.
I think I understand the general idea, but I'm not sure I've followed. Can you please try again?
So let's just say you're explaining to somebody that's not a developer. Let's just say Seth. Okay, if you want to just do that in GitHub, there's the markdown and there's the images. Like find the folder, which is the same name as the rule.
Yeah.
And you've got it. And there's all the stuff there.
Yeah. That's now, if you go on GitHub.
On GitHub, yeah.
By itself, right?
Yes, if you go to GitHub. Yeah. So if a person chooses to use GitHub because there is a problem with Tina or something else, they can't. It's not as simple. They find the markdown file. Now they have to know. Now you go somewhere else to find the images related to this.
Yes. Okay.
I
I'm with you.
see that as I see that as a problem.
Any?
How much is it worth to you?
Yeah.
I think it's worth enough not to migrate it. I don't know, but maybe I'm only just getting this information cold. So maybe what we do is we just do a little video showing the experience of how, because it seems horrible to me. It seems
in GitHub. Could we store some sort of link to the subfolder in that, in under /role to better Tina, whatever? Could there be a link that goes to the subfolder and back?
No.
Like,
yeah, could there be reciprocal links back and forth?
Like in SharePoint, for instance,
in
SharePoint you can store a file easily, but you can also store a link, which is basically just a URL link. And you click on it, and it just seamlessly opens whatever that link points to. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
that'll
you can...
work for that'll work for submodules, but that's about it.
You're right.
But a submodule points to a hash in a different repository.
Oh, because it's a different repo. Is it? No.
No.
It's the same repo.
GitHub will do it for GitHub can do that for submodules, but not for like symlinks.
Right.
If you create a symbolic link, that's on the file system. Git doesn't know about it, or Git doesn't care. Or if it does, it tracks it as a separate thing.
You can't store like a hyperlink type thing.
No.
Never tried.
Right.
Well, a hyperlink is like, yeah, it's not. You're thinking of symbolic link, which is a file system thing.
So are we talking about the difference of Gatsby versus Next.js, are we?
Yeah, Gatsby didn't care because Gatsby was doing its own thing during I could have gone around the other way. Fuck. Gatsby was doing its own thing when doing a build, and then it would move everything into the right place.
Okay.
So it's a
Is
different.
it worth trying Astro?
I would put money down that you're going to have the same. It's going to be the same thing.
Okay.
And even if it's not today, it will probably be tomorrow, Matt. That's why I was kind of asking why is that the decision, the architectural decision to store that in a separate folder? Is it like a trend? Is it like there's a good reason to do it, and therefore everybody's going to move to that kind of strategy? That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's not in our control.
I know,
Right.
but that's why I'm trying to figure out why they've decided this.
Oh, why? CDNs. It's much easier to cache things
Yeah.
on a CDN then.
Yeah, it's caching issue. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get you.
That's really what it comes down to. Like, performance is simple because it's predictable.
Yeah.
You don't have to run any code.
So it's not a mad bet to think that, everybody moving on that space will move to a similar strategy. So even if Astro works today, it might not work tomorrow because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want them to do any investigation into alternative approaches that allow us to keep the content and images together?
I mean, go for it. Off the top of my head, I can think of two ways that is least, like, the smallest change for the maximum impact would be you source the rules out of public images so that that actual the content's co-located in a publicly accessible directory, so it sits all next to each other. The other way would be the images sit next to the rules in /content/rules, whatever, and then as part of build, it copies over the images into a public directory.
Yes.
And then you've got some middleware running at dev time to redirect and read it out of the collection system. So those would be the two ways I can think of. Neither are awesome though.
What about? I'm still thinking links because I still think we shouldn't try to bend that too much. What about a link in the front matter? So it doesn't render, doesn't impact anything, but someone editing has a link in the front matter to go to the right subdirectory. And you can build that link because it could be an hyperlink because you know where that folder will be in GitHub.
I'm not following.
Well, imagine you want to edit the rule to Bettina, and in the front matter, you've got a link, like an actual https://github.com/content/blah, the rule, or the image folder. Then it's there. So you don't have to ask someone to click around. They have this in the front matter somewhere. How does it sound, Adam?
Look, I think we can go into a lot of different alternatives here. Really, what I want to know is who could do some investigation on this, whether there are an alternative, whether we should stop this or whether we should continue and ignore the problem. Do the Frenchies want Hugo and Jack P or Brooke or somebody to help them with this? Brooke might be useful. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I just know with what I've heard so far, I wouldn't make the change, but maybe I'm wrong. And I think what Matt said there about CDNs is a very important point. And I think his workaround, I'm not sure if it's palatable or not with the middle thing in there, but yeah. Does anyone want to investigate this?
You can, yeah.
Okay. And do you need Christian or Brooke or like?
I don't think I need help to start with what we just said. That gave us 2 solid leads, so I can investigate. Okay. And if I'm stuck at some point, then I'll raise my hand and ask for help, I guess.
All right. Okay. All right, cool. Then let's continue if everyone's happy with that.
Yep. Okay. Let's continue.
Does anyone want to give their opinions? Christian, do you want to say your thoughts?
I sort of ran into the same issue when I did a POC for SSW people using Astro. I also had to split images and the profile markdown.
You wait there.
In the same way that we're doing rules and the assets.
And were you uncomfortable with that?
Yeah, it wasn't great. But I think keeping the same sort of folder structure or naming the folders well in the actual image or assets directory sort of helps split that up. Because then you could sort of navigate through the tree. But the issue is the medium manager doesn't have a search function. So when you start getting lots of files, lots of folders, it does become a bit unwieldy.
Yeah, and with 100 employees, very different from 3,000 or 4,000 rules. And there's a bloody lot of images in some of them, and we could add videos to them as well. And it should be together. That's what I.
Were you using subfolders, Christian, with Astro, or just one?
Yeah, I had to use subfolders for Astro as well.
Well, surely we're not the only ones thinking about that. So I'd assume that there might be at least someone trying something on that front, like doing some kind of experimentation with middleware or whatever. For the record, I do think it's bending too much, and it doesn't sound like mainstream. But if we really want to go down this route, I'd check what exists on market already, because surely we're not the first ones to think of that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been discussed, and maybe we should do some reading about whether people care about this or not.
Mm.
All right.
All right, cool.
Okay. Let's continue.
Let's continue. All right. We were at this.
Can I just double check? Did this come up in the, you know, remember the first step we did a retro on what blocked? I think it was Jack P and Brooke and Brady. I think those guys were involved in the last migration effort. Do you remember this one coming up as one of the blockers?
Not sure about that one too. Yeah.
Can I ask you to go back and look at that retro with the right people and see what it
Yep,
said
sure.
to see if this was included? Because it
Can
definitely
you
shouldn't
take
come
notes?
up as a surprise right now.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Chloe is taking notes about that. We will check that after the sprint review.
And when it did come up during this sprint, did you guys go, "Oh, this is ugly"?
Soon, I think, during the second sprint, something like that.
Yeah, at the beginning.
At the beginning of the yeah.
You thought this is not great?
Well, I just thought that it's different. That's it.
Right. Okay. All right.
All right. Any thoughts, Adam?
About what?
About all those things. Can we move on?
Yeah. Look, just go back and look at the retro again to see whether this was
yeah.
it.
We'll do.
Yeah, we'll do, and let you know. All right. Let's go back to the sprint review. We were at the sprint retro. So what went well? So we're happy that the POC is live. There's a lot of dons. Christian think that it was good to catch up yesterday before the sprint review. We all agree that it's great to have documentation and docs for developers. And what did not go so well? We still think, Hugo and I, that those permission and time zone are still a problem. Anything else, guys? Adam, do you want to add something?
All right.
Oh, good. So let's move on to the forecast. So obviously, I'm going to add a goal here, which is investigate alternative image. Alternative.
I would arguably put that down as R&D as well in your review.
Oh, yeah, right.
I think that qualifies, right?
Yeah,
But that's not an expert.
Kind of. I mean, we've just been discussing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I put it as a priority. Another goals we put is finishing the Azure deployment, because we had still some flows and trigger editor workflow to implement, and we want to also keep document everything we are doing about those deployment on Azure. The next sprint is going to be 1 week. And we will have to change a little bit that backlog over here, because I'm going to create a PBI about investigating just what we talked before.
Yeah, and record a video explaining and try to make it generic, that you're explaining to the general public how it works. Because
all right,
and because obviously that is how it works for most people. And then once we know how it does work, you might, if you've worked out alternatives, you could say you can do it like this.
Okay, right. Chloe took notes.
Yeah, just to be sure, Adam, you wanted the video to state what we are doing at the moment with everything in the production website. We have stuff in the same folder, and with Next and Tina, we would have to put everything in the same place. So you want me
I think I would say something like, all right, so let's talk about how the storage works for a Tina site. Like this, and you have files like this, and you have the markdown over here. if you've done some investigation, you could say, there is an alternative. You can do it like this, and you have to add this step inside it. You know, if you've got that. But if you don't have anything, there's nothing to discuss.
Okay. Right. Will do. Anything else, guys?
We're good.
We're good. So this is the end of our sprint review. As always, this video will be uploaded on the SSW Rules YouTube channel. Thanks everyone to joining that meeting, and I see you on the next sprint.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.